Hi, welcome to this online info session about university or industry. Why not both? During this session, we're going to talk about, well, it's going to be 3 masters, but we've actually added one down the bottom. The main purpose was to talk about the Master of Networking and System Administration, the Master of Cloud Computing, and the Master of Information System Security. We've got another master's coming at the beginning of next year. We had a number of people make queries about it. I'm not sure how they heard about it. We haven't got a lot of details as yet. So we thought we'd add that one in as well, just to tell you what's coming and how you might even make an early start on that if you're interested. Start by an introduction. As I said, my name is Martin Hale. I'm the not so handsome one in the left there in the suit. That's up at graduation at Wagga about a decade ago. I'm the CEO of IT Masters, and I'm also an adjunct senior lecturer at Charles Sturt University. Don't do a lot of lecturing these days, but it does allow me to officially represent the university. The guy in the middle was our first ever graduate from these programs way back in 2004, Scott Anderson. Scott graduated from one of the masters we're going to talk about, which was our first one, the Master of Networking and System Administration. Shortly after graduation, he got a job with Cisco, and he's very senior in Cisco these days, a great supporter of the masters as we go through. And the one on the right is the head of school for computing and mathematics at Charles Sturt University. That's Dr. Irfan Eltaz. He gets to wear that lovely hat because he is a doctor. But he looks after all the courses we're going to talk about. There's our agenda. Probably most people would like to start with the fees and payment options. I noticed we can tell by how people go on the web these days at the university and the IT Master site. Most people click on the fees first off. It can be surprisingly hard to find at university and some university sites, but we'll cover that. Also have a look at things like credit. I've also got Neil McCosh. Neil, are you there? Hello, Neil? No, he must have nodded off. Anyway, I'll refer to that as we go through.
Can you hear me right now?
I can, unfortunately, Neil. Yes, you're there now.
Sorry, I clicked the wrong button. Just everyone in the background, I'll answer questions if anyone has any. It's the Q&A button on there, and I'll get back to anyone I can't get back to in this session because we have another one after here on different courses. So please go ahead, Martin.
And Neil's also, as you'll see as we go through, an expert on things like credit and also the admissions process, some of the stuff, the details I don't know about. So we'll get him to talk a bit about that as we go through. Okay, well, let's make a start. Firstly, let's talk about the target audience. Well, networking and system administration is pretty simple. Normally be a person working in that area. Normally require a reasonable background in networking and system administration. These are not masters. None of them are. They're designed for industry professionals, but these are not for people who want to get into the industry. They're designed for people already working in the industry who want to up their skills and maybe move to the next level in their career. Master of Cloud Computing, which was brought in beginning of last year, so it's fairly new. Master of Information System Security, which is 2007 we brought that in. It's been started off slowly, but my God, it has really taken off in the last few years, and I'm sure that wouldn't surprise most of you because cybersecurity has become such a strong area. And as I said, we'll also talk about the upcoming Master of Cyber Security, and I'll talk about the difference between those two courses. Let's have a quick look at the course structures for those the 4 masters. They're all 4 designed the same way. We have 6 university subjects. These are type of standard university postgraduate level IT subjects delivered by the academics at the university. And then we have what we call 6 industry certification-based subjects. These are delivered by industry-based people, industry experts, designed by them and designed by an advisory committee from the industry. And they cover not all of them, most subjects cover some of the most in-demand industry certifications. For instance, in networking, we've got a subject on Cisco certification and one on Microsoft. In security, you've got one around the most famous of all, which is CISSP certification in cybersecurity. So they cover the content from those certifications. If you haven't already got it, they help you prepare for the certification. And one of the advantages to you of that, as compared to most other masters, is it is the very latest information, because we're actually preparing you for, helping you prepare for the certification as well. And people tend to get a bit upset if they go then and have a go at the industry exam and say, well, you taught me stuff that was out of date. It forces us and our industry-based lecturers to keep them right up to date. So a unique mix there. Again, I don't know of any other master degrees from university that have such a strong industry-focused component. We have 3 semesters, which we don't call semesters because that's normally 2, so we call them sessions per year. And the recommended load for a working full-time professional, which, by the way, everyone who's doing these masters is 2 subjects per session. So everyone studying them is working during the day, and then they come home at night and weekends and do their study. So it's a part-time load. 2 subjects is the recommended. A lot of people, just about everyone, drop back to 1 subject per session at different times. An exception to that was that chap I showed you at the beginning, Scott Anderson. He graduated. He was the first ever to graduate because he did a full load of 2 subjects per session, and he got credit. He was a triple CCIE. It was a Microsoft, a whole range of certifications. So he got lots of credit, and he finished very quickly because of that. If you do the math there, how long should it take you? This is your first question to get into the masters. The recommended low, you should be finished in 2 years, assuming A, you didn't get any credit and you keep up the 2 subjects per session. Realistically, on average, most people 2.5, a bit over 2. But as I said, we have some that finish in a year as well. Okay, let's have a look at the 4 different masters quickly. The first one we ever had, the Master of Networking and System Administration. As with all the masters, you have core. In this case, there is 6 subjects. Remember I said there's a total of 12 you've got to do. So you've got 6 here that you have to do. As you can imagine, lots of networking type stuff. And then you've got 2 pools of electives to pick from. First pool is what we call the academic elective. So these, again, are delivered from within the university with academics who, by the way, very clever people. A lot of them have got their PhDs and are studying a lot of this information, researching it. So lots of clever stuff going on there. And then we've got the other pool, which is we call the industry subjects, and you've got to pick 3 from each of those pools. Now, the industry subjects, remember again, they're generally built around help you prepare for certification, and they're delivered by industry-based professionals. Let's have a look at the first one there. Well, actually, the second one, ITE 526, Practical Internet Networking, built around Cisco CCNA, CCNP prep, and delivered by a guy with lots of internet working experience. Or there's actually a pool of them in that area. So, and you've also got in the core subjects, some of them are industry-based ones. Normally the ITE ones are industry-based. So hacking countermeasures, interesting subject, built around the EC Council's ethical hacking certification, again, delivered by a person working in the industry during the day. So that's the networking. As I said, that was the first ever masters we have. Still very popular masters. Lots of people in networking and system administration. We had people say, cloud's here and we won't need system administrators. Well, I think they're wrong. We're always going to need system administrators on the local system administrators looking after the local network. They're always going to be required. But there's no doubt there's a lot of movement into the cloud. Lots of stuff Fantastic. You can go in and scale stuff so quickly, and the cost is so reasonable these days. So lots of demand for people. Cloud computing, we're seeing particularly network and system administration people migrate into that as a career. Okay, so this was introduced at the beginning of last year. Some pretty new stuff happening. I mean, if you look at IT 532, containers and virtualization, lots of stuff happening with Docker out there, lots of demand for anyone who's got expertise in there, in that type of area. Cloud computing and cloud privacy and security, again, evolving very quickly in those areas. That got some fantastic people, both at the university and our industry people delivering those subjects. So there's 6 core again, and actually there's 7, sorry, there you go. Shouldn't be lecturing for computing and mathematics, so I can't count. There's 7 core subjects there, and then you've got 3 to pick from industry, and then 2 academic subjects. And again, you'll end up covering 6 and 6, 6 industry-based and 6 university-based subjects. So a lot of our graduates tell us that that's the perfect mix as far as they're concerned. They're getting their hands dirty in the industry-based stuff and learning the theory and stretching their mind in all sorts of ways with the academic-based. Of course, as you'll see, we're easily the biggest provider of postgraduate IT in Australia, and this is the reason why, is that we're giving people the type of study that they want, especially industry-based people. And the third one, Master of Information System Security, introduced 2006, 2007. It was slow. It was an old saying in training, is that security is stuff you offer training in and no one ever turns up. And it used to be the case. I used to work in the commercial training industry, and you'd put on courses and hardly everyone showed up. Well, it's not the case anymore. They're coming in droves because suddenly the CIO and the CEO are asking, what are we doing about cybersecurity? A booming industry, probably not for a good reason, but that's the way it is. Lots of demand. We just had, again, this has happened 3 times now. We've had a guy grabbed, he was only partway into his master's and using it he had a good, strong networking background, as you need for this, by the way, but looking at this as a career move, and sure enough, he was snafu'd. He's only done a couple of subjects and got a job, and we're seeing more and more of that going on, people being grabbed on their way through the masters, particularly in this area. Okay, so we've got core, and then we've got your 2 groups of electives, academic and industry-based. End up with 6 industry-based and 6 academic-based subjects. And the one that's not even released yet, this is available for the beginning of next year, session 1. But you can start now. We've got a number of people doing this. If you look at some of the subjects here, let's have a look at some. Look at this one, IT 512, incident response, or IT, say, 516, hacking countermeasures. And if you go back up to the Master of Information, which is, as I said, has been around for several years, you'll find both of those subjects also in this course. 512 is over there. Anyway, I'm sure they're there. They're there somewhere. And a number of the others, as you can imagine, because they're both in cybersecurity. So a number of the courses are offered subjects are offered in both. So what you can do, and we've got half a dozen people doing this already, you could start in this, in the upcoming session 3, and as soon as the other one, it's a simple matter to transfer across, and you get credit for the 1 or 2 subjects that you studied over Christmas. So a good way to start. And as I say, you don't have to wait, but you cannot enroll in this yet. It's not actually open for, well, not for this session. Is that right, Neil? You still there, Neil?
Yes, I am, Martin. It is open for next year, but not if you want to start in November. You couldn't enroll in this course. You just enroll in another course, and then we'll transfer you over next year.
What's attracting, it seems to be, people? Well, firstly, it's fully technical, real hardcore hands-on type masters, this one. If you look up at the other one, I mean, they're fantastic subjects, don't get me wrong, but they've got things like technology ethics and risk management, that type of thing. But if you look at this, the core is all pure technical and all security, really, hardcore hands-on cybersecurity stuff. If you don't have a strong security background, you should start with something like ITE 581, Cybersecurity Fundamentals, and work your way through. And I haven't mentioned this one, but it's in all of them, the ITC 571, Emerging Technologies and Information. That's what's called in academia capstone subject. You do it at the end. It's a mini research subject, and in this case, you would definitely be researching something to do with security. So just a single subject. And the idea is to, firstly, stretch your mind and get into the whole research idea, but you might want to eventually go on and do your doctorate, and it's a good chance to have a look at how all that works in the whole research things. But normally it's open, whatever you want to research there, but in this case, you would definitely be doing something in cybersecurity, maybe inside your own company or whatever. And then you've got your electives, and there again, a mix, but there's lots of cybersecurity stuff in there. So you could do the whole 12 subjects in full-on cybersecurity, which is one of the few masters we've got like that. But we had the industry advisory board we put together for this. That was the strong feedback we had, particularly from employers. They also wanted people with a really strong, a cybersecurity background in forensics and countermeasures and all of that. We'll talk about credit before, but as I said, a lot of the industry subjects are based on certifications. ITU 514, which we'll have a look at in a minute, system security, it's around the CISSP. If you've already got that certification, you wouldn't have to do that subject. We don't make you redo it. You get credit for it. But we'll look at credit a bit more down the track. As I said, well, let's have a look at that subject, and it's in available as an elective or as a core in all of those masters. So I think it's CISSP, Certified Information Systems Security Professional. I'm pretty sure that's what it stands for. 6-hour exam, really, really tough. You need a couple of years in cybersecurity to even be allowed to attempt, to gain the certification. So it is the pinnacle of security, generally. It's the one they really want to see on your resume, but pretty tough to get. So there's the learning objectives for the subject. And how do we test you? Well, there's 3 assessments for this. They're all different, although they have different assessments. Firstly, there's an online test about fairly early in the session. It's a multi-choice thing. It is very like the CISSP exam. Can't be the same, of course, but again, we're trying to help you prepare for that certification if you want. So it's a multi-choice. And then we get into as I said, stretching your brain about it in not just the knowledge of the theory, but let's see how much you can apply it. And a real hands-on, how can a company minimise the risk of a denial of service attack? So looking at a case study on how you would do that. And then there's a final exam, which is a mixture of, again, CISSP type multi-choice, but also short answer questions. In the past, you've always had to go to an exam centre and sit a paper-based exam, which caused a lot of complaints from IT people. I had a guy come out from one of the exams. He said, you know how long since I've actually written with a pen and how painful that can be? The good news is we've got e-exams coming in now, just trialled last year. So same as the Microsoft and several others are doing. You sit at home exam, you have a webcam watching you, make sure you're not doing something naughty, and you actually sit the exam. So it's pretty popular with the IT guys to have that available. So we've got that in all of our available. Neil, have we got that available to everyone now? What's the e-exams?
My understanding is they trialled them all and we're just waiting for feedback and see if we're continuing.
Yes. Well, we are. I'm sure we're continuing, but well, certainly for our subjects, but it may not go right across the uni. But okay, so that's those 3 masters, let's have a look at some more generic stuff. The background to Charles Sturt University and the IT Masters Partnership. Before 2002, we had industry certifications. They were quite separate, like the one I just mentioned, CISSP, quite separate from universities. Some gave some recognition for them, but it was pretty limited, quite frankly, in terms of you might go there. I mean, Scott Anson's a good example. I keep coming back to him, but he got an incredible range of industry certifications and experience when he applied, and he got a lot of credit. Well, he wouldn't at most unis. Even today, he still wouldn't get credit. So they were quite separate. There's 2 things. You would go off and get your certifications, and you do university, a separate thing. But in 2002, with lots of support from Microsoft, we were pretty excited about the concept. We announced what was the first university master degree that integrated those industry certification subjects within the masters. And we started with the networking and system administration, and we've gradually expanded. We've got a group of 8 of them now, covering all the major areas of IT and even things like project management, which is really going very strongly. So again, they're all the same. They've got you get your master's degree, but embedded within it, we've got prep for industry certifications. And who's IT Masters? We market. That's what I'm doing here. Just trying to see if you want to come along and do a master's with us. Okay, so we run these type of activities. We do the second one, which I love doing, research on identify opportunities for further expansion. Cybersecurity one is a classic example of that. We're getting feedback from the last couple of years about the need for something more totally focused on cybersecurity, and that's where that master's came from. But we don't just go off and do that. We run a whole series of industry events, mainly with our alumni these days, because we've got so many thousand alumni, and lots of them in very senior, CSO type positions. They're fantastic. I've never had a single knockback from getting involved or helping. Wonderful, the alumni. So that's where we got the structure of that from, right directly out of the industry. And when you're studying for your industry certification-based subjects, you'll be using all the university infrastructure, but we find and provide the lecturers and also support. A lot of the support, not all of it, but a lot of the support we provide. So it's a joint thing we do together. Wonderful partnership. Been incredibly successful, as you'll see. Why would you go to CSU? I'll make some assumptions. You've decided that you want to have a master's degree on your resume, and I'll show you some dollars later on as why this is one of the best investments you'd ever make, if you haven't got one already. You want to study via distance. IT particularly, people get a lot of travel, pretty hard to get to a certain place every week for your face-to-face. I'm not saying, I mean, face-to-face is fantastic, great for networking and that type of stuff. Although people do a lot of networking on the online forums, but it's not always feasible. And you would like to study the current technologies, frameworks, and platforms. I can't emphasize how important this is. I studied with another university, and we hit the first IT type subject, and it was woefully out of date, and the dropout rate was amazing. And it's a real issue, is that IT professionals, particularly the ones that are more talented than me, don't want to be looking at stuff that's out of date. They want to be looking at the latest and greatest. That's what they're paid for. That's where their future lies. So we go to a lot of trouble to make sure that's happening. And why would you do distance ed at Charles Sturt? Well, again, you're thinking if you want to do, they dominate the world of distance education, been doing it for 40 years now. And I mentioned about the success we've had with Charles Sturt and IT Masters. Well, when we first approached them in 2002, Charles Sturt University were 14th or 15th largest in terms of numbers of student. Well, we hit market leadership in 2008, and we just dominate the market these days in terms of IT postgraduate part-time people. So we're not aiming for full-time students here who've rolled from their master's degree their bachelor's degree into their master's degree and possibly going on to do their PhD at uni. We're talking about industry professionals. That's the audience we've always sought, and it's all been designed for those people who are actually working in the industry during the day. And as I said, we dominate. There's 48 universities to get that type of domination. I think it says something about not just the quality of the course, but also how up to date the material is. So how do we achieve preparation for the latest industry certs? Force us to keep current. We've got industry-based lecturers, as I mentioned as I went through. What type of study load would you be looking at? Or how long's a piece of string? But it depends very much on your experience level. You've got a strong cybersecurity background, and you start with if you don't get credit for it, if you start with one of the cybersecurity, the fundamental subject I mentioned before, you're not going to have to do an enormous amount of work to get a good mark on it, obviously. So not many hours of work at all. I've had people virtually just study, do minimal study, and then challenge the assessments. But if you're coming from a network background, for instance, and you haven't had a lot of cybersecurity, although most networking people have, of course, you're going to have to work harder. For those type of people, and you're hitting a subject you really haven't had a lot of experience at, you need to be looking at 6 to 12 hours per subject per week. So the good news is that's pretty unusual because, as I said, everyone's doing it's got some industry background. So a more realistic number is probably 6 hours per subject per week. 1 or 2 nights a week and 1 day a weekend, every second weekend, that type of, you get yourself into a model of doing it. But if it all gets too much, this is the same with all universities, you're definitely okay to drop back to one subject or take leave. And particularly at Charles Sturt, we've got such a massive distance ed cohort, and which means everyone's industry based. And at different times, they're going to need to take leave. All you need to do is just send us an email saying, "We're getting a bit much. I need to take a break." We won't put you through the ringer about it. The only word of warning there is they have a thing called census, which is 4 weeks into the subject. You need to tell us before then. If you don't, you'd need to continue on with the subject because you would be charged for it. So, yeah, normally by 4 weeks, you've got a pretty good idea. I mean, there is other leave available as well if something really bad happens, but it's pretty unusual. So fees, $3,150 per subject. That's due at the beginning of each session, so you don't pay for the whole lot up front. You pay as you go. If you're doing 2 subjects, you'd need to pay double that. It should be tax deductible if you're working in the industry. By the way, we've had lots of people come back and say their accountants told them it isn't. Well, the accountants are wrong. They're thinking of a bachelor HECS funded position, which is not tax deductible. These are full fee, providing it can be seen to be applicable to your career or your future. It is tax deductible. GST exempt, includes everything. In fact, don't buy anything else, for God's sake, you'll be busy enough as it is. So textbooks, study guides, e-learning, blah, blah, blah. And as I said, remember census 4 weeks in, you can pull out. What happens is you keep your books generally, and then next time the subject's running, you'll go back into it. So you can pull out with no penalty up to 4 weeks into the subject. If you're an Australian citizen, everyone uses fee help to fund it. It's a government study loan, interest-free, but indexed to CPI, which is not much these days, and it covers everything. So what happens there is you say, well, I want to use fee help, and tick a box on your form, and the government then pays for you, effectively pays the university for your studies. Again, we've had people come back about this. There's no undergraduate HECS stuff. They've got a loan fee, which is pretty rough, I think. But anyway, 25%, it doesn't apply because it is a full fee. But the bad news is you actually have to repay it, and that kicks in. Look, this may have changed a bit. You need to check it, but it used to be 50K, and they take it out of your pay 4 to 8%. how do you get in, or what do you need to get in? Well, normally to do a master's degree, you need a bachelor's degree. And again, Scott Anderson, I mentioned the Cisco guy. They're originally going to knock him back. I said, don't knock him back. He's an industry legend. I mean, he's got amazing certifications and experience. And so these days, and they did let him in, obviously, because he graduated, took some doing. Doesn't take much doing these days. If you've got the experience, they'll let you in. And would you believe nearly half of our students don't have a bachelor's degree? They've either never went to uni or more likely went and did a year and got poached into the industry. So if you've got the industry experience, we have a what's called a pathway in. And it was a graduate certificate pathway. Geez, Neil, my spelling's getting a bit off there, but it's called a graduate certificate pathway, and you do what is effectively the first 4 subjects of the masters that you want to do, and then you transfer once you pass, providing you pass, into the masters, and you get credit for what you've already done. So no extra cost. In fact, you end up with 2 qualifications, which is not a bad thing on your resume if you want to use both of them. So probably worth doing anyway. So I'll talk, I think I've got something else, a graduate certificate pathway. I'll have a look a bit more, but that's, I mean, you explain to people and they say, what's the bad bit about it? Well, there isn't really. You do the subjects, you pay for them, you get full credit into your masters. Neil, what's the level of experience they need? I forgot to put that on the slide.
If you've been in the industry 2 years, I can get you in a graduate certificate pathway.
Okay. So no bachelor's, minimum of 2 years industry experience. How would they show that? They could send you a resume or something, would they?
Yeah, normally they send me, well, I definitely need a resume, and then some employer statement of what their current job is enough.
It's interesting. We have prize winners each year for the top performing students. And would you believe the graduate certificate pathway, which are people without a bachelor's, are so often winning the prizes these days? I think maybe they've got something to prove or whatever. But anyway, I call the graduate certificate, put your toe in the water. You don't want to launch straight into the masters. That's the other option, is just come and do the graduate certificate in cybersecurity or networking. And you do 4 subjects instead of 12. And as I said, it is a postgraduate qualification from the university, and you get articulates into the masters. So pretty smooth these days as compared to what Paul Scott had to go through. As I said, nearly half of your fellow students will be in the same boat. And it's pretty quick because it's only 4 subjects. So well worth a look at. Credit? Here you are. Neil, you can talk to credit. I'm getting a sore throat. You want to talk to this, Neil?
Yeah, I'll just answer this one question. Yep, I'm okay.
Got any interesting questions, Neil, so far?
Yes, I am answering questions about accountants saying this is not tax deductible to, I've got more experience in 5 years. Can I get into a master's directly? And I'll answer that in a moment, but you can't. You need to do the grad cert pathway is actually very good. You do no extra subjects. You actually get a discount on subjects after you've done the grad cert. So, and we arrange a simple transfer from the grad cert to the masters if you continue on your study at the same time.
Yes.
I think it's a great pathway, Martin.
Yep.
Okay, so credit. Yes, you can get credit 2 ways. You can get it from industry certifications that are on our credit map that I can give you. And you can, and if you have got a certification that matches a topic or a subject that isn't on that list, I'll look at it and decide with the uni if it's acceptable. You also may have done some postgraduate study previously, previous graduate certificate or master's subjects where it is very similar. We'll arrange a credit for you as well. Up to half the course you can get credits. So on the grad cert, 2 subjects, on the master's 6 subjects. We also have some short courses which you may or may not have seen on our site. We run short courses over 4 to 5 weeks showing how our courses basically work, how you would study at a postgraduate level, and if you pass 3 of them, any time up to graduation, and any of these credits are available up to then. We can give you another subject credit. But the fact is, you talk to me, we look at what you have, and we tell you what is available. Is that okay, Martin? I'll just go and answer some questions.
Okay, and the maximum credit at any uni, not just us, is half of your master's. So 12 subjects, you can get up to 6. We do get occasional person who gets 6. If you're interested in that or want to check your credit before you're enrolled, just go up on IT Masters website and fill out the Am I Eligible form. Take it 5 minutes, and Neil will get back to you with a confirmation of what level of credit you want. You do not have to claim the credit up front. A lot of people do. They'll claim it just before they graduate. So they might be studying, you know, their business might be sending them on a CISSP course and certification, for instance. So you would claim that credit before you graduate. So you don't have to do it all beforehand. So yeah, fill out that form. Am I eligible? Neil loves them. He gets 1,000 or something a year. He'll go through the credit stuff with you. When can you start? Well, Friday is the closing date for the next intake. That's not long. If you're interested in the session 1, which is runs over the Christmas, good time to study. A lot of people say, I mean, over their holidays or whatever, it's a good time to start. You'll need to get a wriggle on if you want that. All you need to do, though, is go up and fill your online application form. You don't have to, you know, they'll want details of things like your resume and that type of stuff, but you don't have to attach that straight away, but you do need to send your form in. If you're interested with that, I suggest you ring in IT Masters, or another option is ring into IT Masters, and we can help you through the form. It's a lot better than it used to be, but there's still a bit of academia stuff in it. So it's probably worth doing. Just ring into IT Masters and say, can someone walk me through the form? I'll pull it up on the screen and help you go through it. 1300 885 685, or email us and say, so yeah, if you're interested in that intake. Otherwise, we've got a couple of other intakes, which is end of Jan for commencing. That's a session 1, you know, more traditional time when people start university, and the end of June for intakes commencing in October. Why would you do it? I mentioned about that. This is the Australian census data. And it shows, amongst other things, how much extra people in working in IT earn if they've got a degree. And I don't think they'd fib, because you know, possibly cross-reference with the taxation office. You've got to put down your wage and your level of qualification, and it shows a clear difference between what someone without a degree and what people earn with various other ones. I've just, as of this week, got the latest data, but this is 2006 data. So we've just got the, 2006, just got the 2016 data. Taken that long, would you believe, for it to become available? I imagine they've got a lot of work to do inputting it or whatever. So I'll do an update on this, showing what, if any, change has been. But I saw some figures for the USA as well. It was about the same, so I suspect there won't be a great change. Why is there such a difference? Well, that'd be a hell of a research topic for you to look at one day. You know, is it because of what they learnt while they did their masters? Is it because they're just go-getters, and that's why more of them end up doing their masters or their bachelor's degrees? Who knows? I think there'd be a whole combination of different things. And just a bit of a career tip, seeing we're talking about wages and that. Again, we just had a guy win a job I mentioned before, another guy who's partway into his master's in IS security, and he's picked up a cybersecurity job. So what he did, and as I did with my first executive role with Telstra, is I put in progress in brackets after my master's, and I can tell you it works. I think it works better in some ways. So you don't have to actually wait until you finish the whole thing to start potentially seeing some benefits. You just put it in progress, and they'll have a discussion. It was actually good at the interview because they'd say, well, what's this in progress? What are you studying? You know, and firstly, you make it clear you're not looking for any study leave, because most interview panels are not all that happy with that. But just talk about how I'm doing it in my own time and this is what I'm studying. And yeah, it makes a good thing. Okay, so what do you get out of it? Just wrapping up here. Well, you end up with a fully accredited master's degree, or if you do the grad cert pathway, you've got 2 qualifications. You prep for a range of industry certifications if you haven't got them already. If you have, of course, you'd be up for credit. And plus, I've got to make an attempt, at least some sort of attempt at a joke. The university's famous for its study of wine science. So alumni and students get a 25% discount on CSU wine. So that includes current students. So maybe you could knock off a bottle as you pass each subject or something on the way through. I certainly drink far too much of it myself. But look, we'll wrap it up there. We'd love to see you as a student and catch up with you graduation one day and share a CSU wine with you. I'll leave it there for questions. Obviously, some of you have been emailing Neil, and we'll leave this open so you can continue to talk to Neil on the chat. Otherwise, email us. And as I said, particularly if you're interested in that session 3 intake, and you'll never finish if you don't start. So think about it. Just call us on 1300 885 685 and say, look, can someone give me a hand? I just want to quickly get my application in so I can make that intake. Even if you're a bit flat out, start with a single subject if you've got lots happening, and see how you go. You've got up till census to pull out. So, but anyway, if not with us, hopefully good luck with your career and whatever you end up doing. Thanks very much.